Are you thinking of lowering your art pricing? But what if that doesn't work? What if it just makes everything worse? And while you watch me draw this today, I'm gonna power through every single reason that you think you need to lower your price, but you shouldn't, because believe it or not, it'll actually turn off clients from wanting to work with you. That's because you never knew this. Now, I wanna concede that, of course, no matter where you're coming from, no matter what you're currently doing right now, everybody starts somewhere. And even me, I come from a very humble place on this. Like, I used to start off by doing $35 commissions, but then from there, I've been able to build myself up to be able to get upwards of $1,500. And I just want to say that it's okay for you to have that humble origin story, that you are coming from a place where just you have to take something in order to begin. So let me just start off by saying, yeah, hey, you might need to take a few cheapos. You might need to start off at a price lower than what you expect. And you might need to start off somewhere that you don't want to be. However, though, this is where we need to draw a line, my friend, because if you are, let's say, a year later and you're still at the exact same pricing, or if you're more than that out and you're still doing the same or less for pricing, that's a choice. That's not what needs to happen. And as we go through everything in this video, I want to really expose to you why this is happening and why you think this is the best practice, but it's really not. And if you're somebody that's here right now that's consistently getting cheap pricing and cheap art, and you know you can do better and you know that you have a better product to offer, then I just want to expose this for you right now. You're not trying to get money. You're not trying to build a business, friend. What you're trying to get is validation. And that's okay, that's real that you feel that way from it, because I get it, okay? You get dismayed and you get dispelled out of wanting to pursue art as a passion, as a career, as a hobby even, and you have all these people, especially growing up as an artist, that don't support you. And it feels wonderful to have just somebody validate you, monetarily speaking, to show that you have promise. The roots of this are completely sensible and empathetic. However, though, I promise you that if you stay here, it's going to completely ruin your passion for art. Do you really want to give that up? Because I would really be aware of all this. Now, early on in this video, I just want to rip off a Band-Aid that's going to sting, it's going to hurt, but it's going to make you feel better and it's going to heal what you got going inside. So let me ask you this. How would you feel about needing to leave your current clients behind? How do you feel about your current client base? I bet they're wonderful people, aren't they? They've supported you up until this point in your journey. Maybe you've been going for a few years. Maybe you've got a few consistent clients, but they're only able to pay you what you're currently asking. Am I talking about you? Do you have clients just like this? And look, are they wonderful people? Are they so kind? They're so nice, and they give you lots of liberties and leeway to do whatever you want with it? Let's say that you were able to fast forward 5 to 10 years in the future, and let me just ask you this. Will those current clients fulfill your future ambitions, or are they only good for right now? Because one of the things I want to alert you to, friend, is that I think you need to start to ride with a new crew. And this is typically a big obstacle that a lot of artists have to overcome the hurdle of, is getting past and being okay with leaving their current client base. Because look, this is kind of like you having to walk uphill carrying boulders in your backpack. It's just gonna make it a lot harder for you, okay? And listen, let's just remove all emotion from this equation. You know what's right. You know the correct answer to this, and you know what you need to do. But here's the best part I didn't mention yet, and you need to consider. What if you holding on to those old clients is preventing you from even better clients? What if you don't know everybody that you will know that's going to be so much better for you, that's going to respect you and pay you more money and give you better jobs and give you more consistent income? What if you're denying all of them just for the favor of who you have right now? Y'all, this is kind of like being in a toxic relationship with somebody just so that you don't have to be alone, which is what you're feeling right now, isn't it? Now, as far as those clients, I'm not saying like drop them like they're hot. Listen, appreciate them. Let them know that you're getting busier, that you're getting more business, that you're taking yourself more seriously, and you can price them up gradually as you go so that you don't just have to like double, triple, quadruple the pricing and leave them in the dust. You can appreciate them in a lot of ways that I'll advise you on later in this video. But if you are solely committed to the people that aren't able to fulfill you and fulfill your needs, then you're also just dooming yourself to less than your potential. You ever consider that? Now, let me ask you, does the thought of raising your pricing trigger you? Does this give you intense anxiety? Does it make you feel super uncomfortable? Are you just thinking like, oh my God, no one's gonna buy it from me. This is gonna be terrible, and I'm gonna lose everything that I built so far. Look, can we just get down to the root of this? You realize this isn't about pricing. This isn't about your bank account. This isn't even about your art business. And your fear of raising your pricing actually has nothing to do with raising your pricing, because it's literally just changing a number or two. This is all about you handling rejection. You might be thinking that you need to lower your price tag and you need to focus on your price, or that your art's only worth so much, or you perceive the art market to only be worth so much, which is also wrong, and I'll talk to you about that later today. But y'all gotta stop hyper-focusing on your pricing as a problem, because it's not the problem, okay? And just to put this into perspective for you, there's somebody out there right now that can do it better than you, cheaper than you, and faster than you. So why are you so focused on trying to dumb yourself and your pricing down to that level? Because I'm gonna tell you this, you're gonna perceive that person as winning, but I guarantee that they're not. They're actually losing a lot more than you are. And the reason why clients aren't gonna buy you as much when you start to lower down your pricing and you perceive that to be your biggest issue is that you're not coming off as a professional. You're not oozing professionalism. You're oozing desperation. You just want something for nothing. And listen, what does this invite? This invites the worst clients. Y'all are fishing with rotten bait here, because you're gonna get the worst, most disrespectful clients, the ones that don't care, the ones that use and abuse you, as I'm gonna warn you about later today. And most importantly, if you've never heard this before, please hear me on this, that your art pricing is a reflection of your self-respect for yourself above all else. So one of the key things that I see people ask all the time is, well, like, Sean, where should I start? Where do I start my art pricing? So I want to solidify this for you real quick. Your minimum pricing, as you're gonna be offering yourself up for freelance services, if you're somebody that's just brand new, never done this before, I say that you need to have a minimum floor of $50 or don't offer it, okay? It's fine if you just wanna keep this as a hobby. It's fine if you just wanna do requests. It's fine if you don't wanna get paid for this and you just want prompts for art. Like, I get that. However, though, if you are somebody that is really wanting to grow this, you have to put a bottom floor as your minimum pricing, not your max, of $50. Now, if you're somebody that's more experienced, I would say that you should not take less than $100. That's perfectly fair. It's perfectly reasonable. There are plenty of people that I'm going to tell you about today that will actually pay that amount, believe it or not. But you can't be so hyper-focused on your art pricing thinking that that's the problem, because there's actually much greater problems at risk here. And by solely focusing on your pricing, you're actually driving away the clients that want to work with you. Now, the next reason you might be having terrible practices and you're not being successful is that you forgot to hit that like and subscribe button, because y'all, I'm coming at you week to week. And if you're down for that, you know where to find me every single week. And hey, look, if this is helping you, then please make sure you share it with somebody that you know so we can help them out too. And make sure you're also aware of this too, friend. Now, can I rock your world with this one? And this is gonna run totally counterintuitive. So let me ask you this. Do you think that you're currently being overlooked because of your pricing? Do you think that you needing to lower your price is going to attract more clients? But what if your current pricing is actually filtering out the clients you want to work with? What if all the clients that actually would really prefer to work with you are seeing your pricing because you just display it all over the place as if you were like walking around naked out there exposing yourself to everybody? You've exposed your art pricing out there. What if that is actually causing clients to sift you out? Because that's true, that's 100% what happens. Believe it or not, you displaying your pricing is a big rookie move, and the clients that are actually going to have deeper pockets and willing to pay more and respect you more, ironically, are going to completely pass you by because you appear cheap to them. And therefore, they see a lot of issues with it. And just to put this into another context for you, one of the things you need to understand is that you have this thing called a value perception. So as a personal example for this, I recently hit a big milestone with one of my mentees in my Art Mentorship program, where they've been with me for over a year, and I wanted to get them a nice gift. And I'll tell you, while I was looking for it, I saw a lot of different pricing. And to me, I immediately thought like, okay, I don't want to get less than $100 for this person. They've been with me, they've been rocking with me for a super long time, and they've been awesome to work with. So I wanted to make sure that whatever I send them is not going to appear cheap. And in the same vein of thought, that's exactly what you are going to do. And so therefore, you need to consider this, is that currently you having cheap pricing and you showing that cheap pricing out there to the world is actually causing you to look cheap, but not because your art is worth a cheap price tag, but because that's how you're putting it out there. You ever consider that? Now, what's the biggest excuse that you might have, particularly if you're maybe outside of America or Europe, as to why you think you need lower pricing? And it probably goes something like this. Tell me if this is you. And a common concern that I see people ask me all the time is like, well, Sean, look, I live in a place where the dollar is worth so much more and I can charge a lot less because the standard of living is a lot less. So therefore I need to price a lot less, right? Wrong. This is totally a broken mindset. And this is a fact that I have deemed geolocking, where you just feel boxed in by the accident of your birth. I want to awaken y'all to the global market. And listen, even those of you that are living in superpower countries, okay, then you might be thinking, well, I need to lower my price tag to compete with everybody that's from Brazil or from the Philippines or just from anywhere where a dollar might be worth like $100 to them. And let me just awaken you to this, friend. Nobody knows, nobody cares where you live. They don't care if you live in the United States. They don't care if you live in Poland. They don't care if you live in Antarctica. Nobody knows and nobody cares. The only person that knows and cares that is you. And if you're going to demean your pricing and demean your potential down to what people around you are making, why are you doing that? Let me give you this what if scenario here. What if you normally only charge $10 for an artwork and you do a bang up job, right? And let's say that gets you a whole week of living expenses, right? Then what would $50 do for you? What would $100 do for you? What would $200 do for you? There's no reason and no excuse for you to do it other than the excuse that you've invented for yourself that's actually just making you fight against yourself. What if, even though people around you aren't making that much, what if you joined the global market and actually did it because you can? Another thing that you might want to consider, this friend, is that if people know, because you're putting it out there where you live and you have a lower standard of living and therefore you think you need to lower your pricing, if you're putting that out there, you ever thought about the fact that a lot of clients will just see you as a scam? They're going to perceive you because of your low cost perception and low value perception that you are just going to take advantage of them. But if you did the opposite, you'd earn a lot more respect and a little bit more money. How's that sound? Because look, your birthplace was an accident. You had no choice into it. You were not given any type of autonomy over that. But staying in disrespectfully low pricing is a choice. Now, are you aware that you're currently being sucked into a vortex? And I call this the valley of despair because this is when you're not getting clients. And then this is when all the fears and anxieties are going to erupt in you. You're going to be like, oh my God, it's because I'm not worth it. It's because my mom and dad were right about me. It's because, oh my God, my art teacher in high school said that I wouldn't amount to anything. And oh my God, they're right. And then, I need to lower my pricing because I'm not that good, or I'm never going to be that good, or it's impossible. And you just start to swirl in this vortex of just self-doubt and anxiety. And you're probably having all of that exacerbated by where you're looking for clients too. Have you ever considered that? And I see this perpetuated by really terrible art platforms, which I've made videos on in the past. So you can find some links down below on it. But there's a lot of platforms, like for example, like Artistry or Fiverr, that really produce this effect called a red ocean effect, where you feel compelled to have to undercut yourself and disrespectfully price yourself because of what you see all around you. What this does is it just cannibalizes everybody, and then all you have are clients going through trying to figure out who they can abuse the best and pay the least in order to get done what they want. So they're just using and abusing you. And I'm gonna warn you more about this later on today. So one of the best things I wanna advise you on, friend, is that if you are currently thinking that you need to lower your pricing, stop and instead start looking elsewhere. Look on other platforms. There's plenty of places you can go. I've made full guides on this stuff, link down below too for that one. But if you wanna know one of the worst things that you could ever do is to just strictly adhere to one platform. It's the worst, most terrible advice. If you want better advice, here's what I recommend you do, because this is what works for me and the people that I work with, is that you should always make sure that you are perusing and active on at least 3 art platforms. So for me, I used to do DeviantArt, Reddit, forums, and Discord. And those would be the best places, in which case I've always found that you can always find clients and find better clients. So stop encouraging clients to see you as cheap and therefore need to cheapen your pricing and your artwork too by broadening your options for sourcing them. All right, this one's gonna hit hard for you, but I think you need to hear this, okay? So hear me out. Have you ever thought that you're currently caught in an abusive cycle? And like, look, I know that sounds dramatic, but please hear me out, because I just wanna ask you this. How do you feel when you take that cheap art? How do you feel about that $15, $20, $30 price tag? And look, please don't give me the heroic speech about you having the integrity to do it, you just wanting to do it just because Because let's just be honest with ourselves. Let's be real raw, everybody here. You feel like crap. You hate it. It doesn't make you feel good. And the whole time you're working on it, you feel like you are just throwing your potential away. Why do I say that? Because I've been there, because I remember that. When I used to do $35 commissions, the whole time I would be griping internally, saying to myself like, oh my God, like I've taken so many years to learn how to do this. I know I can do this better. I know I'm worth more. I'm not making enough money. This doesn't make sense. And you can't like brag to somebody and be like, hey mom, dad, guess what? I got a $25 commission. They're like, yay. So one of the things I want to let you know is that by you maintaining cheap pricing, you're warding clients away because it's actually just like a public display of self-flagellation. That's right, you're voluntarily abusing yourself by participating in this activity. If you sustain mediocrity, you will never invite excellence, okay? And this is one thing that I've definitely recognized. Like I'm not gonna lie about it. I've talked about it in the past, but I've worked with some really lousy nightmare clients. I worked with one person I did a book cover for, and I hated every second of it. And I definitely priced myself way less than I could do now, and I should have done back then. And I kicked myself right there because I just realized that I should have walked away because I didn't know any better and because I didn't respect myself more. And one of the things I want to convey to you is that confidently increasing your pricing is not about just being rich or being greedy. It's about building trust in yourself. It's about you demonstrating and fulfilling love for yourself. It's about you caring for yourself. It is not strictly about greed and capitalism. It's about you being able to respect your own investment into yourself and therefore reciprocally having a client do the same. How's that sound? Is that better? All right, here's a big one. Do you think that you need to lower your pricing in order to stay competitive in the art market? Are you thinking to yourself, or have you been told the art market is oversaturated? Y'all, who told you that? Definitely not anybody that's making anything substantial. Definitely not anybody that's winning it or killing it. And I'm gonna tell you why the only thing that's oversaturating the art market is that excuse. Y'all, listen. There's literally money oozing from all corners of the globe. The issue here is that it's just not coming to you, and you're not trying to tap into it, and you're not doing anything to attract it to you. At every point in human history, artists have felt the same way you do. It's nothing special, it's nothing new to you. However, though, you think that it is because you're the one experiencing it. And whenever you adhere to this logic, this is when you're just gonna surrender your ambitions, because when you think that the art market is oversaturated, you're just giving up and you're just saying like, well, it's not my fault. But then whose fault is it? Because if it's not your fault, then how are you ever going to change it? And how are you ever gonna get clients on your side in order to wanna pay you more? The main root cause of this issue is that you need to get out of your own wallet. And look, just because you wouldn't pay what you're asking for, just because you don't have the means to pay hundreds of dollars, doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that are in a better state of living, that have better financial resources, that don't have access to more than you do. But you're just caught in your own economics. Like me personally, at this juncture in my life, I wouldn't blow $1,000 on an artwork, but I know plenty of people that will, and there are tons more out there. You just don't know them yet. And you're not willing to invite them to come and see you based on what you're doing, where you're going, and what your practices are. And just because you wouldn't personally pay it doesn't mean it's not possible. It just implies that you need to do different to attract it. Have you ever considered that? Now let me ask you, have you been unable to make it thus far, and maybe you've now got this brilliant idea, hey, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna offer more. I'm gonna offer more art styles, I'm gonna offer more types of art. Logically, it seems that, hey, if I have more, I'm gonna multiply my opportunities. I'm gonna multiply the amount of people I can get. I can capture more, so I'm gonna cast a super wide net. I'm just gonna reel in all those fish and be fat and happy afterwards, right? But your math is wrong, friend, because you're not multiplying your opportunities, you're dividing them. And y'all, I wanna give you some sizzling hot honesty right now. Your fear of commitment to one type of thing at your beginning is embedding you in failure and is embedding you in mediocre cheap art pricing. Because in this vein of thought, you're appearing like a handyman who says, oh, I can do plumbing, I do electrical, I do general carpentry, I can put in a pool. And naturally, you should be wary of that type of person that appears like they could just do anything to your house because your house might burn down, right? So specializing in something doesn't remove your opportunities, it actually focuses it and drives everything up. It's crazy, right? But it works. And there are a lot of you, I'm sure right now, that are cringing in the seat going like, well, God, I mean, Sean, I can't narrow it down. I can't just do one thing. I don't want to be restricted. Man, I'm a creative, right? But here, y'all, let me just shift your negative mindset away from that. Y'all don't like to think about it, but think about it like this. You're not restricting yourself. You are focusing yourself. You're committing to one type of thing. Now listen, I'm going to advise you on this later too, but you don't need to do this forever, but you need to do this to start. And if you think about all the companies that you like, they all got big off of doing one thing really well. The artists that you appreciate did one thing really well and they blew up from it, right? This positive mindset reframe allowed me to increase my pricing annually for the last 5 years, as much as doubling it. So what do you think it can do for you? Now, have you considered that right now, what you're doing is actually equaling your max monetary potential? It's almost like if you were invited to a big fancy ballroom event, you know, one of those ones where you kind of like dress up super nice, like what you see in a James Bond film maybe. And then you just showed up like a scrub with all dirty clothes and just jeans and t-shirts. How would people perceive you? Well, I mean, you're gonna get a lot of looks, you're gonna get some stares, you're gonna get some judgments. And look, you could be the best person, you could be the most wonderful artist out there that's in that ballroom, but nobody wants to talk to you. And in the same way, this is how you're dressing up your interactions and you're priming your clients to perceive you as cheap and to only accept cheap work from you. And this just rolls into the unfortunate popularity of really horrible art practices. I'm talking things like displaying your pricing, commission sheets, robotic impersonal ways that you're interacting with clients or lack thereof, email inquiries, having fixed rates, having public queues, and many more. All of these things cheapen the experience. It makes everything look transactional. And y'all, the more that you go up in pricing, the more I want you to realize this. People aren't buying artwork from you. They're buying an experience with you. And you're never going to break that value perception by you staying super low because it is cheap, it's expendable, and it's transactional. And one thing that I want you to admit is that your current efforts deserve your current results. And this is a hard pill for me to swallow back in the day too. And then I looked at everything that I was doing and everything that everybody else was doing, and I was like, well, if I'm doing everything that they're doing and they're still complaining about it, and I think that they're doing better, but they're really not, I found out, then I can only hope to get a fraction of what they're currently getting, which is next to nothing. And as soon as you do that, friend, what you do is you invite accountability. You invite the possibility that you're able to do better. So take accountability and reconsider what you can do over your current practices. You ever consider that? Now, what exactly do you think you're offering here, pal? Are you somebody that's putting up all of these different alternative options for somebody? Are you thinking that if you just have maximum options, you're gonna get maximum gains from it? Are you somebody that's like, oh, well, I'm gonna offer sketches for this amount, and I'm gonna offer, a black and white version for this, and black and white sketchy, and like a loose render, a sketchy render, and then a full render? Are you somebody that uses the same artwork and displays different versions of the same thing? Almost like I'm watching a work in progress evolve over time? Well, have you ever considered that that's your problem? Because what clients see this as is that first off, you don't make a lot of artwork, because if you don't have examples for everything, then immediately that turns off a client. And especially if they're not relevant examples, they're gonna be like, whatever, take a hike, buddy. You can't do what I wanna do. But especially if you're being lazy with your examples, and if you're begging for table scraps for some of your stuff, join us at the table where you can get better art pricing. Because I need to let you know this, friend, unfinished artwork doesn't sell. What I specifically want to address is y'all that are doing sketches. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why are you offering anything less than a finished piece? It's a bad move. Like, honestly here, unless you can sell a sketch very confidently for $50 to $100, complete waste of your time. You can tell me it takes an hour, but it's a waste of your time, and it's a waste of your potential. A lot of times what I see artists do is that they just ask for anything rather than exactly what they want. And the thing that I want to encourage you to do here is that you have to learn how to say no to certain projects so that you can say yes to the ones that will matter. Like, for example, I'll never forget this. I had one time where I pitched my quote to a client and they said no, and they told me that their max was 50, and I walked away from it. I felt bad about that later. And then I tried to reach out to them to see if they were still interested, because at the time I was like, oh man, I could have used $50. And they never got back to me. I'm so thankful they did, because I then that night put up a post on Reddit. I literally woke up to another client that was interested, and within an hour of that, $350 into my bank account. So I learned this so that I can share it with you, is that you have to learn to say no to certain things that won't move the needle forward. So if it is going to add to a lousy portfolio, if it's not going to allow you to demonstrate your skill, if it's not going to be a finished work, it's just a waste of your time, and clients see it that way too. Now, can we rip a Band-Aid off? Because I want to tell you why what you're avoiding is the actual reason why your bank account is hurting, okay? And I want to talk about one major part of your process that you might be a little errored or uninformed about, and it's definitely one thing that a lot of artists are not going to invest in, but I promise you, if you invest into it, clients are going to invest into you. So let's start off with how you start your commissions process. And typically, what do? You put out a commission sheet, somebody message you and they ask for a price and you just slap it out to them. Maybe you have a pricing sheet, maybe you ask for email inquiries, maybe you have a Google form, right? These are standard practices that you see a lot of people doing, right? This is why you're failing. This is why your art is cheap. This is why you can't grow in your pricing. And this is why you're stuck with the same clients or lack of clients than what you could and deserve to be, because people don't like this. These are basic robotic processes that people don't like in many other aspects of their life, and they sure as heck hate it there. Like, just for example, how pissed off do you get whenever you call any place and you get the robo answering machine? You gotta admit, like when you call somebody and a human being picks up, it's so much easier to get to where you wanna get to, right? And this is what people don't like, and I'm gonna tell you why higher paying clients hate this. When you don't qualify a customer, when you don't talk to them, it doesn't give you an opportunity to build trust. When you actually have a conversation with the client, I'm gonna overcome your objection to this in just a second, so hold on. You are going to start to build a relationship with them. You're going to convince them why they need to stick with you, why they need to rock with you instead of another artist who's not as good as you, who's going to charge cheaper than you. And that's because of this. You're succumbing to processes that are completely impersonal. And higher paying clients do not like this. They don't expect it and they don't like it because they need to get to know you as an artist. And you, my friend, also hear me out. Why you need to do it is because you need to be totally informed. There's no single type of artwork that everything just fits under the umbrella of. But I see a lot of you falling into this practice where somebody says like, hey, how much for a character? And you're like, this much. And that's what isn't working for you. And you need to consider this and evolve yourself into thinking this way. You are a creative contractor, my friend, okay? So in the same vein of thought, you can't just roll up your car to a mechanic and say, how much to fix? Without any type of conversation for a few minutes, right? In the same vein of thought, you need to question more people. And I'm gonna tell you this from experience, is that by doing this, I've been able to skyrocket my pricing from when I couldn't even get $100 up to over $1,000, just because of the fact that I really invest into a conversation with the client, okay? And now your major objection is obviously like, well, what if they just waste my time? Or like, oh, I feel bad for them. I don't wanna waste their time. I just wanna let you know this, friend, you're not wasting your time, okay? You would be wasting your time if you instead invested 12 hours into working with a client that you hate, on a project that you hate, or especially on a project that you got underpaid for, because just to be honest, you feel like crap every single time that you have to slave over an artwork that you don't even like, and you know you are getting underpaid for it, right? Be real with yourself on that. And so you're not wasting your time. Instead, what I wanna invite you to reconsider is this. Even if the client says no, even if they ghost you, even if they listen to your entire spiel in that whole conversation and they don't buy from you, that's part of the game. You should expect that. You should expect the no. You should expect not to close everybody every single time. And by you going through this, you are armed and equipped with all the knowledge that you need to in order to actually perform the task, in order to perform the service. And you get to build enthusiasm, you get to build that trust, you get to build a relationship. And nobody talks about this, but here's one thing you want to know too, friend, is that it's not only about the client qualifying you as the artist, it's about you qualifying the client to see, are they somebody that you want to work with? Because you usually don't know that until it's too late. I understand how you probably feel about this a little bit. And let me just ask you real talk here. Does this seem completely unattainable? Does this seem impossible to do? Because I used to think the same exact way. And what this reminds me of is there was an athlete back in the 1920s. His name was Roger Banner. And prior to this man's appearance on the circuit, it was thought that it was completely impossible to do a 5-minute mile. Scientists literally thought that your heart would explode if you could run faster than a 5-minute mile. But Roger Banner was the one that did it. And then inevitably what happened after he did it is that the next year, 5 more people do it. And now years later, literally like high schoolers can do this. And I can think about other examples where people thought things were impossible. Like, did you know that at one point it was thought that if women were educated that their brains would explode because scientists back then thought that their brains were smaller and their cranial capacity was less than a man's? Obviously that's not true because women are much smarter than men. My point here is real simple. Improved art pricing seems impossible until you have a reference that will emerge. And listen, when I say reference, I'm not talking about an actual image. I'm not talking about a picture when I say a reference. A reference, I mean, is some type of validation point. Until you get it, until you start to learn how do you increase your pricing a little bit, until you learn that you can actually get more than what you're worth. And what I want to offer you is this too, is that you're going to attract more clients, you're going to attract better clients, you're going to attract more consistency, you're going to attract more abundance by you just unlocking the idea that you can do this. Because one of the things I want to let you know is that there's somebody just like you around the world somewhere, probably multiple versions of them, who's in way worse, way dire circumstances than you, getting more than you, simply because they believe that they could do it. And I remember when I first opened myself up to the opportunity and the possibility that I could get more, that's what really allowed me to propel myself forward. And when you don't have any references for success or any proof of your potential, what do you get? You get imposter syndrome, you get doubt, you get anxiety, and then you get into avoidant behavior where you avoid making artwork. And then I promise you this is that you're going to totally burn out and then just give up on art. The reality is this: you don't have imposter syndrome, you're just a beginner. You don't have fears, doubts, and anxieties, you just haven't unlocked that yet. You haven't gotten it. And I think that what I want to encourage you to do is to be gentle with yourself, to be honest with yourself. Because if you approach everything that you're doing right now like you're a pro, but you're not a pro, you can kind of call it out on yourself and be like, well, I'm not. And that's exactly why you deserve to feel that way, because you're placing undue pressure on yourself. Have you ever considered that? And one of the things that I want to invite you just to consider is that your ascension will begin when you stop saying, I can't or I won't, instead open yourself up to wondering how and why. Now, I want to draw from my Southern roots here. I want to just say this to you: bless your heart, because you've got a great big one here, don't you? And one of the reasons that might be holding you back from bigger art pricing is you're going to say something to the effect of like, well, Sean, I don't have the heart to do it. And that is a wonderful sentiment. You are a beautiful human being for thinking so. The unfortunate reality, though, as I want to let you know, is that your clients don't share that sentiment with you whatsoever, okay? Because the clients that you're working with, not the best clients, objectively speaking, because they don't respect you enough to show you more than you're worth $20, $30, $40. And they don't have any problem with the fact that you've taken 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years to build your current skill level, and you're practically just giving it away. So they don't have a problem with using and abusing you, but you somehow do, and you're afraid to ask for more art pricing. But listen, y'all, this is no different than you building a healthy and sustainable relationship with another human being, which you actually are doing when you're working with an art client. So if you're thinking that you can't ask for any appreciation via more money, then you will never be appreciated. And really what this masks is just a lack of belief. You don't believe that you will make it. You're really just ingrained in your current pricing practices because you doubt yourself. And the thing that I want to challenge you in order to grow from that and in order to start to get the clients that actually will, because you're energetically not putting out there that you're worth it, which is really the big cause of it, you don't think you're worth it, is this: increase your pricing incrementally. Do it a little bit at a time. You'll be shocked at how quickly you can go up over the course of a year or two. And y'all can't really rush this, especially for those of you that aren't certain of yourself. But I would encourage you to do this. Just price up a little bit every single time you get a new client. And guess what's going to happen? Then the old clients can also adjust to that too, or you can adjust, or they can adjust to the point where you can have somebody else come in, okay? It's kind of like rising up a ladder, and that's how you want to think about it. But listen, you trying to play the emotional card over this, it really just signals a deeper issue. And you're also warding off the best clients that can actually fulfill you. You ever considered that? Now at this point, you're probably thinking, well, like, Sean, how do I do this? Like, look, I want to have better pricing. I want to have better practices, but I don't know how to do this. This all seems very elusive, or maybe you think that I'm just beating around the bush. But look, I made an entire video for you right here to tell you how to increase your art pricing step by step. Go check it out, and if this helped you, share with someone that you know. See you next time.